Elite Junior Day. Sooners host some junior prospects this past weekend, and me and Coop's going to talk about it. Coming up here in about 10 seconds. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay here with Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. And in this video, this is a snippet from our Sooner or Later podcast episode. You can get that wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. Me and Coop are diving into the Elite Junior Day players that showed up to Norman and showed out. And we'll talk about some of the crystal balls that came from it and some potential players that may sign in the 24 class. Let's dive right in, shall we? Let's jump into how Saturday went. So, on Saturday, we had Elite Junior Day, and you had a whole bunch of juniors in town. And I know I was really just like refreshing the 24/7, basically the message board, because I was trying to just kind of understanding who was going to show up and who's in town and who's and all of that. And there was a long list of them. And so, for those know, I jumped on my boy Preston Gant's show, the PG show. Check him out here on YouTube. Just search it. And I'll also drop the link in the description. Me and him talked about a lot of the players coming in that actually showed up for, Junior Day. And we had the initial list and everything. We went through it. But there were some players that I think were key that we should definitely keep an eye on. First off, the number one to me, I guess you could say the anchor to all of this and the most key one to them all is going to be Michael Hawkins. And as y'all know, Michael Hawkins is a four-star quarterback that's a legacy that we're expecting to potentially commit within the next few days. Like, he set a commitment date for the 31st. He said he wanted to push it out. Then he deleted the tweet. So there's a whole fiasco on the video I put on him and the footage of him. And I'm going to keep it a buck. I know a lot of you weren't super excited about him overall, but at his stature at 6'2.5", roughly 6'3", 195 to 200 pounds, he's got a lot of raw talent that I think would be great to develop behind a Jackson Arnold, who we do expect to be the quarterback for like at least 2 to 3 years once Dylan Gabriel's gone. He's probably the anchor of all of the players that pulled up, and he's the one that I think that we should definitely keep our eye on the most. He's going to be key because I think once he commits, that's when you're going to start seeing the recruiting. It'll be similar to the 23 class. That class recruited like crazy for the people that we got here. They were out there doing it themselves. I heard they had a group chat from the beginning as they started the commits, started bringing people in that they were trying to convince to come to the school. And, supposedly they were super interactive. So that's dope to hear as a hearsay piece. But I think that's the one player to keep our eye on the most. If he commits now, we're going to see a lot of stuff coming down the line. So besides Michael Hawkins, who else jumped out to you that came through for the Junior Day? I'm going to pull up the list in a minute and talk about and point out the players. But who's somebody that jumped out to you on that list?
I'll start out by agreeing with you. Michael Hawkins, having a quarterback in, a potential focal point of the class is big, because usually the quarterback takes that mantle of leadership and recruiting for everybody. And it's very, very important, because where Michael Hawkins is extremely raw, you're not going to bring in a guy like Michael Van Buren to sit behind Jackson Arnold, Gatorade Player of the Year in Texas. Consensus, top 10 player in the nation. There's not a lot of crazy people who think, it means nothing, I can come in. We have seen it twice happen with Baker coming in, and then with Caleb Williams still coming in with Spencer Rattler at the helm. Like, we saw these things. This was not but it's a different situation. Spencer had already been there for a few years, and so when he does fall, I think it's going to be, again, I make an assumption, because if OU really, really wants him, I think he's at OU. He is a legacy, and this 2024 class is all about legacies. You've got Max Anderson, offensive lineman, who is an OU legacy, and he's got a couple different family members that have played here. Aaron Flowers is one that is extremely long defensive back out of Forney, Texas. Love him. My favorite two are going to be Peyton Pierce, linebacker out of Lucas Lovejoy. He is a 4-star, 5-star type of a guy. But then you also have Nigel Smith, defensive lineman out of Melissa, Texas, and he's a Rivals 100 guy. So I will say that those are some guys that are coming in. There are multiple more, but those are kind of the guys right now that I'm excited about, and I'd like to see some real good depth come in.
No, I'm with you on that one. I think Nigel Smith, he, outside of Michael Hawkins being the quarterback, they're usually your anchor, and I mention him as the anchor because he's the only quarterback that came. So that tells you who the focus is for this class, and that's the one thing I think that Levy and Venables probably have agreed on is they're going to do one quarterback per cycle. I think the quarterback they truly wanted, to be honest, was DJ Lagway, but he decided that Florida was where he was going to go, and so Hawkins was the next one that they had on the list of players. I think Van Buren, like you mentioned, he's a player that it will be tough to get him to sit for 2 to 3 years, just 100%. Because of the talent. He'll be one that would potentially go out. But outside of that, when you go on the defensive side, your anchor, it's got to be Nigel Smith. I mean, he's a top 40 player in the country on 24/7. Like, he's 38 as for 24/7 and 36 on the consensus side. Kid is a monster. And like you said, he's a Rivals top 100. He's probably tops on ESPN. I'm about to pull up his recruiting profile now. I want to take a gander at what his industry comparison is here on 24/7. He's 58 for ESPN. He's 77 for On3 and 56 for Rivals. So top 100 player across the board. Yeah, he's one that jumps out as the defensive anchor we're going to get. If you can add him with the David Stone. Whew.
Yeah.
Now, I see that Stone looking like he's going to be a battle because he's loving him some Michigan State stuff. I'm thinking that Mel Tucker's doing some things. But the guy that was recruiting him before, the life of me can't remember his name. I'm going to search it right now. But he's the new Georgia Tech head coach.
While you're looking that up, Jay, I'll say this. A lot of people who are extremely excited about David Stone and watching the Michigan State stuff on Twitter. And what you don't know is, he's at OU all the time, and he doesn't post it all the time. So you can look at that one of two ways. Number one, there's never these big gaps in between him being there. He's been there a multiple amount of times. He doesn't post about it intentionally because he doesn't want to get it riled up. I think when it all boils down to it, David Stone signs with OU. This is a guy who is Oklahoma. He went off to IMG, and now, he's looking at making a move back to Oklahoma, just to be closer to family. It seems kind of odd that he would do that, and then the following year go to East Lansing, Michigan, and disappear. Because, it's like, at that point, why? What's the point? When it comes time to NIL opportunities, I don't think Michigan State's going to do much that Oklahoma's not going to be willing to do. But that's what I say. So, yes, on Twitter, it's frustrating. He's got the green lightsaber situation going on right now, and it's obnoxious. But at the same time, OU fans, keep yourself under control. Don't tweet at him making fun of Michigan State for anything. Like, again, let the natural play out.
Yeah, I think give it some time. I have no issue with recruits going out having fun, getting to know people, doing the social media thing. They're young. That's what kids do. They all want attention. Yeah. So. But I think he is one that's, as a Okie, and the way that Gerald McCoy is really going after him, I believe exactly. that's one player we're going to eventually win. But no, you threw out there some players, and that we got some crystal balls this week and over the weekend from Junior Day. So you had Aaron Flowers, who's been hit with a crystal ball to come here, and you talked about the specialness of having Aaron Flowers. I think that's one out of Forney, Texas. He's one that could be a good game changer long term on your defense. Top 200 player in the country. Everyone for the most part likes him. ESPN's around 227, On3's 209, but consensus he's a top 200 player in the country. We're doing a really good job of getting players in the DFW area. Forney's right outside of Mesquite, which is right outside of Dallas. We're doing a good job of going after those players. And that's something that we hadn't been doing as good on the defensive side, like getting the top ones. But we've gotten some really good players. Don't get it twisted. We got some really good players out of it. But I think that adding a coach like Emmett Jones really can change the game of going in that area, because Emmett Jones coming in, he's a guy that spent a lot of time coaching high school ball in the Dallas area. And so he knows a lot of people. He's built a lot of relationships, and I've heard a lot of wide receivers have hit him up about spending some time here. I saw who was that JoJo Stone Jr. had tweeted at Coach Venables. He's an LSU wide receiver, but he had tweeted at Coach Venables that he was training. So we'll see if we can, do a potential job of stealing him away or something. But outside of that, I kind of threw that little random plug in there. But the biggest thing is Flowers is one that we just got a crystal ball on, so there's a good chance that we could potentially win him. From Flowers, we have Jeremy Payne. Yeah. Now, what's your thoughts on him at running back?
So they say all purpose, right? 5'10", 170. This is the type of running back that heads off to K-State, and he's actually big for the K-State type running back, but he heads off to another Big 12 team and just gives us fits for 4 years.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Missouri City, Texas. Again, what you've seen out of DeMarco Murray, and you got to take away losses like Kamar Wheaton, which obviously has turned into what it was, just a show in the first place. But he has gone after folks, and nobody, everybody was really, really, down on him this past year. But he did bring in Javante Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk, and we've seen Javante Barnes all year long dominate. Then you see Sawchuk come in, and in 12 carries go for 100-plus yards, his first actual action of the year in a bowl game against, Power 5 team. So what does that mean? He's doing a good job. And then he, with who he brought in this past year, anybody who he's going to take a shot at, I'm in. Bring him on in.
Oh, yeah. I trust what DeMarco Murray is doing anytime. Like, he's the one coach that I don't question. And it's very hard to bat 1,000 in anything. Actually, it's like borderline impossible. Like, there's a 99.9% chance you will not bat 1,000. But he's close. He's doing very well with it. And then you think about the depth of the locker room, and we'll talk about some of the PWOs that we have that are coming in. But, I mean, you got Emeka Megwa, who came and transferred from Washington, big, stocky back. That came out of nowhere. He had surgery, came in. It looks like he was training during the bowl game, and might be ready to start causing problems next season. And Tyree Walker as well. And so there's depth in our backfield of just players ready to play. But like you said, the freshman walked out there in that bowl game and basically just took over. Like, you saw Barnes, you saw Sawchuk, and that two-headed monster is going to be elite next season. So that's probably, if there's two players that I think that we're gonna be like stupid good with, it's gonna be those two. And so no, that's good. So let me go through the list of players that looks like they did pull up, and we can kind of talk through anybody that jumps out. Let me pull up the junior list that I snatched from some of the big boys out there. So we've got Dominic McKinley out of Lafayette, Louisiana. Supposedly that defensive lineman did pull up. I don't see any ratings on him yet, but he is a player to keep your eye on. Kobe Black was supposed to be here, but I saw that he actually ended up at Texas A&M. Offensive lineman Liam Adams. You had Zeno Umeozulu out of Allen, Texas, edge, 6'4", top 44 player in the country. Jaden Riddell, tight end. Me and PG talked about some of these players. I think this one is one that's kind of interesting. He's a 4-star tight end. Then Zion Kearney, which I'm hearing that there's potential crystal balls coming for him. Wide receiver out of Missouri City, Texas. Hightower, same school as Casey Durham, who was also in town. He's kind of expected to be another, back that's going to cause fits to people in the Big 12 and the SEC moving forward. Jaden Hardy, Peyton Pierce, Aaron Flowers. You had Casey Poe, Nigel Smith II, Xavier Filzami out of McKinney, Texas, safety, top 100 guy. James Peoples, top 100 guy, running back out of San Antonio. Aiden Breland, defensive end, top 100 guy. Max Anderson, one you mentioned, that's a legacy lineman, 6'5", 300. Yikes. And then Zadavian Sims out of Durant, Oklahoma, defensive end, top 66, number 66 in the nation on the composite. And I know that we're battling, of course, Michigan State for both him and David Stone. If we can get Zadavian Sims, we would be eating. And the good thing is Coach Venables is spending a lot of time down there in the Durant area with C4 Sports to make it happen. Michael Hawkins, Eli Bowen, the brother Peyton Bowen, which we're expected to win. Jay Sean Ross, Bryant Wesco, wide receiver. Zion Reagan, which a couple of Zions pulled in, top wide receiver as well. Logan Thomas, edge, another edge, 3-star. Then you got Ty Anthony Smith, linebacker, and then some 25 players. List all those out. You can see them visually on the show because went ahead and put them up. Thoughts on who you think, outside of the ones we just talked about, who jumped out to you?
So I'm going to not talk about anybody specific. I'm going to talk about teammates. Mm-hmm. And we're starting to see a lot of work being done in schools. And so I'll just go with Logan Thomas, defensive end out of Katy Pato. Same school as David Hicks. We put a lot of time down in there. And, again, David Hicks is on Rivals as the number 3 overall player now in the final rankings. And, he was a big guy. And there were several thousands of factors that went into why he picked A&M. But we were still doing work down there. And so that's a teammate opportunity. I know the Bowen situation is weird because it's, his brother. But you have teammates rolling up with people. There was original conversation that Michael Hudson might be coming up with Michael Hawkins, and Michael Hudson is a 5-star receiver in the 24 class. But you're starting to see teammates and people from schools that we recruited and landed guys last year. And that is starting to become what we have suffered from for several years. We suffered a guy going to a different school because that head coach just had a really good relationship with the head coach for another school, and we lost out on somebody. That ain't going to happen anymore. We're going to start being the beneficiaries of those things, to where we've got battles where we got a leg up on someone because we were recruiting them last year when we were talking about the 23 class. And now the coaches are starting to, get really, really excited. You've got Emmett is heading out to those DFW schools in his new OU getup, and he's not even talking to folks. He's just getting seen, and that's what you're wanting. This crew coming in, working. I'll say this: is there will also be again a lot of rumbles when we start getting close to the summer and we don't have 20 guys committed already. Just remember this past year, we didn't have very many guys committed, and then all of a sudden the snowball started rolling, and it was like every time you checked the message board or Twitter and you did not see an OU commit, you were surprised because they were happening so frequently. That's going to happen again this year. Brent's not going to have them all come for the junior day and send them home and accept 7 commitments. He's going to say, make sure this is where you're wanting to be. If this is where you're wanting to be, it's still where you're going to want to be on Monday, still where you're going to want to be on Tuesday. Call me and make the call then.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing to point out is that is how Venables has done it. And I've talked about this ad nauseum, and I'm hoping you all really understand this. Not only say I've said it before, so you understand why I'm repeating myself. Venables does not want players to commit just off a whim, off excitement. He tells them, if you do feel like this is it, feel free to commit. We'll commit to you, and we'll take one player off the list. That way, we only want to recruit this particular amount of players. This many number of players we're going to accept. So you commit to us and say you're in, we'll commit to you, and we'll be all in, and we won't try to over-recruit just because, we can't. because technically Oklahoma can. They could go after more than one. Hell, they can get multiple quarterbacks if they really wanted to and just have competition. Now, Alabama does that, but for them, Oklahoma, they're just like, nah, we want to commit. If we see the guy that we want, we're going to commit to them and focus on their development. And that's what's most important. So,
yeah,
because of that, we don't expect, only thing you would see is picking up transfers so that we have additional depth to go with the players that we are developing in-house. And hopefully the in-house players develop fast enough to where they take over all of those spots. So keep that in mind when thinking about it. So Elite Junior Day, that's part of the weekend dump. That was a big group of players. And so keep your eyes out. We'll see a lot more. We'll be talking a lot more about that over the next few weeks, as another Junior Day will be coming in March. I think they're going to do something in February as well. So as those come through, we'll drop videos and talk about the players that pulled up. I'll make sure to let you guys see what they look like, all that jazz and whatnot. So outside of that, that is Junior Day.